Welcome back to Veterans Beyond the Wire podcast. I am your host, Tim Keller. Along with me is Mr. Matt Disher. And luckily for all you fine fans of the show, it's not just us two this week. We found ourselves a fantastic guest. He is a 16-year Navy veteran who is now doing amazing work with the DoD Skillbridge. Mr. Dave Schantz joins us all the way from San Diego. So, Dave, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
That's great to see you, sir. Matt, how are you?
No complaints. It's not as early here as it is in San Diego for Dave, so he had to wake up real early to be on here with us.
That's true. Yep. That's true. We titled the podcast Post-Election Madness, but I don't think it's necessarily post-election yet. I went to bed at about 1:30 Eastern time, woke up just before 7 o'clock, and nothing really changed. Nothing at all. It looks like everything kind of stayed the same overnight. So
I stayed up.
Rose.
Go. Yeah. I stayed up too late last night, and even my son, who's 9, stayed up too late last night. Mm-hmm. And we were hoping to see, at least get some sort of semblance of what's happening. But I'll tell you that here's my favorite part about all this. Aside from the text message and phone calls I get about my car's extended warranty, now also the political text messages and calls. Yes. Will hopefully stop, and people will take down all their signs that are littering the side of the road, literally every time I leave my neighborhood. So that's my favorite part here.
Yeah, Matt, we kind of talked about this before we went live. The junk text messages, the emails, anytime you have anything on your television, every time it goes to commercial, thank God, all the political ads should finally be gone, at least for a little while.
Right.
But they will immediately be replaced by Black Friday ads. So
welcome
to Christmas. We've done it. We've done it.
Surprised we're allowed to have them this year.
Yeah. Yep. I guess it all depends on how the election goes, if those will continue.
Yep.
So as we normally do, we like to try to talk thousands and thousands of people that normally use China and come across on a boat or something. But this individual crossed heavily barbed wired area with, tons of individuals with guns looking to possibly shoot at somebody. And the area in between is heavily landmined. So, hey, for nothing else, this guy's got some guts. He really wanted out, and congratulations, buddy. You made it across alive. Somehow.
No kidding. And it's my understanding that when people try to cross that border, I mean, there was a video that came out, some surveillance video came out years ago from some of the different buildings on the North Korean side of a dude who stole a vehicle. I don't know if you guys remember this. I think he stole a vehicle and was driving toward the border, and there were 1,000 soldiers on foot just chasing him down, and then they started shooting at him. But they will kill you. They'll kill you if you try to leave that country.
Yeah.
And so not only are you trying to cross the DMZ that's just covered with landmines and machine guns, I mean, it's arguably one of the most heavily militarized areas in the entire world.
Yeah.
So this dude deserves a medal. Get that guy a hot meal, maybe a steak.
Yeah. And he probably needs a shower. He probably spent a lot of time on his belly in the dirt.
He probably needs some new underwear. Let's be honest.
I mean, he's very lucky. We'll say that. Right. Another article I read this morning that I think is going to hit home with a lot of veterans is Jon Stewart, the comedian and former talk show host of The Daily Show on Comedy Central, is part of the legislation for the burn pits. We all know that over in Iraq and Afghanistan, obviously you have that many military members. They're going to produce trash and waste, and they needed to deal with that. So they created these open burn pits, and they burnt that trash and that waste. And because of that, a lot of military members are now dealing with the side effects, cancer and things of that nature. When you burn trash, it actually releases a chemical that was a problem with Agent Orange back in Vietnam. So we're seeing modern day military members dealing with the same thing that military members back in the 60s and 70s were dealing with coming back from Vietnam. So it's a sad thing. But Jon Stewart, he literally went from the comedy clubs in New York to being one of the most recognized political minds outside of actual politics in the country. So it's good to have a guy like that on our side there. That's for sure.
It's my understanding that Jon Stewart was also fighting the good fight on the 9/11 first responders who were suffering from illnesses there at the World Trade Center site.
Inhalation issues, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny with the burn pit thing. We're having the same, like, when are we going to learn? when does that piece click with us? We had these issues back then in the Vietnam era, and then burn pits. I mean, that conversation's been going on now for almost 20 years. I mean, since we started conflict in Afghanistan. It's probably not a good thing to be standing in front of a pit of burning plastic, breathing in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we okay with that? Why did we allow this to happen? So I'm glad that there's a champion there, because if it wasn't getting the media it needed to get, in a lot of cases, like we've seen with other legislation, it just gets brushed under the rug and nothing happens. So
it absolutely does. It absolutely does. And the last thing I kind of wanted to bring up, obviously, we got Veterans Day coming up. Let's not forget the Marine Corps birthday the day before. But we do have Veterans Day coming up. I want to say it's next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, I believe, is the Veterans Day. You can go to military.com. They have all the discounts and freebies and things that veterans can enjoy on that day, the month of November. And some of them are year round. So go to military.com. You can check those things out for yourself. All kinds of free meals, discounted travel, things of that nature. I know, like Matt, it's free admission to the Cincinnati Zoo for military members and their families.
Well, I think all the animals are put up for the season.
Yeah.
I saw a meme the other day, and I'll have to dig it up and maybe I'll share it on Twitter or something like that. But it was the meme about it's from Black Hawk Down with Hoot. It was David. What's his name? Not David. Anyway, the guy that plays the Incredible Hulk also in one of those movies. His name was Hoot. He's based on a real character inside that movie, inside of Black Hawk Down. But they're like, "Hey, Hoot, I go home and the guys ask me, why do I do it? Are you some kind of war junkie?" And the meme says, "No, it's because of the discounted meals, free meals on Veterans Day at Applebee's." So
America's neighborhood grill,
Let's be honest about why we served.
Well, there's the discounted Amazon Prime membership. You can do all kinds of stuff over there: beds and breakfasts, Pro Football Hall of Fame, things of that nature. So
right.
But enough of the small talk. Let's talk to our guest, Dave. You spent over 16 years in the United States Navy. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, I think I had a little glitch with my LinkedIn profile. I've actually done 20 and a half years in the Navy.
Wow.
Retired just this past February. 20 years, 6 months, 1 week. I counted. And, I'm out, and I'm loving the retired life.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic, man. 20 years in any branch of the service is fantastic. So let's get back to the core of it. What made you join?
Man, so I grew up in Brooklyn, and didn't really see a whole lot of my friends doing anything, and I barely graduated high school. I made a lot of bad decisions. I was a smart kid that didn't really apply himself, and I didn't find out until the day before graduation that I was allowed to graduate. I did summer school after night school after day school after summer school. It was just a revolving cycle of school, and so finally they allowed me to graduate, and I kind of just looked around like, what am I going to do here? There's nothing here that's going to make me better. So I joined the Navy out of high school, went to San Diego, learned how to be a sonar technician for the Navy. And I spent 20 and a half years in the Navy. I've only ever been to or stationed at San Diego or Hawaii. So my 20 years has been really, really traumatic, really, really difficult for me. It was just
just palm trees and beautiful weather.
Yeah, it was the weather. I don't blame you. Yeah.
It was a really difficult time for me. So
and then you had to stay there, and now you're still there. I mean, even worse.
Yeah.
I'm still in San Diego, so I'm still trying to cope with this weather. The predictable weather, and
the seasons are crazy out there. What are you gonna do?
And
so you got out of the Navy, and what do you find yourself doing nowadays?
So I work with General Dynamics Information Technology. My real passion is working with service members, transitioning service members, and companies on utilizing the DoD Skillbridge program. I spend a lot of time helping them understand the program, service members helping them find the best opportunity for them, and also helping companies shape their Skillbridge program to be able to offer it to transitioning service members.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I leaned on Dave. Dave, you and I had a chat, I don't know, a couple months ago now, maybe. I lose track of time. So what I think was last week was actually like 6 months ago sometimes. I'm like, no, we just spoke. And they're like, no, that was back in January. And I'm like, oh. I lose track of my days. So you helped me in an initial conversation in my professional role. Also, my company and my operation was looking to get into Skillbridge, and we had done a lot of the paperwork, and we got the MOUs done with the DoD. And I think I leaned on you, and I was like, "Is this really as good as it sounds?" So can you give us because this is the question I ask every day, and my counterparts in my business also ask me the same thing. They're like, "Is this for real? Is this as good as it sounds?" And it is. It's a program that allows us, the companies, essentially talent who's transitioning out of the military. We can have you come work for us on the DoD's payroll. So it doesn't cost us anything as a company to bring you on and teach you our industry. And so some of these are skilled trades. Some of them are professional corporate types of roles and things like that. Give us a rundown. You know, what makes Skillbridge so successful and so energizing, and what do you see the huge benefit here?
The benefit comes from all sides. I think when people list out the benefits, the pros and the cons of the Skillbridge program, I've never seen a con of the program, right? There's just pros. Service members, you get to get out of uniform, start your transition early, figure out what you want to do before you leave the service, test drive that company, test drive that industry, see if you like it, and then hopefully get hired on, right? The expectation is more on the company to hire you on. Companies, you get to test drive military talent, transitioning talent without paying them. Just like you said, Matt, you get to mold them and shape them into the kind of worker that you want them to be. Seeing what they're about. And like you said, you don't have to pay them. Once they get out, hopefully they've done a good job, and you want to offer them a full-time position, and it goes on from there. Really, everything. This world revolves around money, right? So it all stems from money, and unemployment, and the DoD. This program was actually started by the Army. So kudos to the Army, and the DoD wanted to make it available to all branches of service. And thank you to Boris Kuhn and his team in Washington D.C. for making it what it is today. The website launched, I think June of last year, and it's a wonderful website. It's very user friendly. They've got a growing list of approved companies that service members can choose from in order to do their internships or apprenticeships or on the job trainings with. It's just an amazing program, and I haven't found a single person to tell me a negative part about that program. It's definitely something that every transitioning service member should have the ability to do before they get out.
Let's talk about this for a second, because Tim and I got out of the military a number of years ago, and for anybody who got out of the military, let's say more than 5 years ago, some of these programs didn't exist. Or let's go back 15 years or 10 years. Some of these programs didn't exist, so there was no such thing. So when we got out, and when we talk about the success rates of veterans post-military and things like that, there are just the resources are light years ahead now compared to where they were 10 years ago. And the way I look at this is that Skillbridge and programs similar to it, or the opportunity to bring on an intern. And as you mentioned, I love the phrase test drive, because it really is. It's a test drive. The candidate can look at a company and say, "I'd like to come work for you for up to 6 months," right? On the DoD's payroll, it's a transition program in and of itself. So it's getting this person involved in an organization one way or the other, teaching them a new business skill or a new industry. 10 years ago, we didn't have this opportunity. So a lot of people got out, like I got out, and I had to go figure it out. I had to go lean on the sparse resources that were here. And back then, I got out in 2004. So this feels like 100 years ago now. There were no resources. There were very limited resources. I could go to a veteran career fair and talk about selling insurance or a handful of other things, but there largely weren't companies looking for me. So tell me, Dave, did you get plugged in through a Skillbridge internship out of the military?
I did, yes. So actually, I found my own opportunities. I learned about the Skillbridge program. I read up on the Navy's instruction. I read up on the DoD's instruction, and as I was reading, I just started, networking with recruiters and companies and finding out what they knew about Skillbridge and what their involvement was about Skillbridge. and I ended up creating my own opportunities and decided on going with General Dynamics Information Technology. It worked out phenomenally for me. I can't say enough about my time with GDIT. They shopped me around. They started shopping me around within the company within the first month of my internship to see what other roles I may be interested in. They were, really wanting to bring me on as a full-time hire at the end of my internship. I got to spend time with 3 different offices of people doing pretty much the same job with different people. So there's always a little different spin on things. But I loved my time with GDIT. I'm not sure how many companies are doing it like GDIT, but I can't say enough about it. And that's why I'm just climbing to the tallest mountain and telling anybody who will listen to me about the Skillbridge program.
That's awesome. Now, like Matt said, we got out 15, 16, 17 years ago now. Things like this weren't available to us. So I don't know a ton about the Skillbridge program, but what I've seen, and most of it's like joking memes, but it'll be some little guy running one direction, and it says me applying for the Skillbridge, and then it says my command, and it's a much larger individual running them down. What are some of the snags that individuals currently serving are finding trying to get themselves eligible for the Skillbridge program? Is it something that most commands are willing to do, or is it something you've really got to kind of butter some people up and talk to the right folks?
So when a commanding officer first hears of one of their service members getting out of uniform up to 6 months early to go do an internship, a lot of them think, yeah, right. It doesn't work like that. You know what I'm saying? You've got to work until the end. I have you until the end. So getting the word to commanding officers and senior enlisted leaders has been slow and difficult. I think the program office is doing a phenomenal job getting the word out, passing it along to senior leadership to let them know that this is a legit opportunity for transitioning service members of all ranks to take advantage of. So even when it's their turn to transition, they should be looking for an opportunity as well to help them transition. Yes, there are some commands that either don't have the manning, or it's mission first, or for whatever reason. Those are usually the main reasons why service members may get denied to take part in a Skillbridge opportunity. But no, I think so. Just our numbers from 2019, the Skillbridge program saw 8,300 participants in calendar year 2019. From January 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2020, even during a pandemic, we saw 10,600. Oh. So that tells me that the word is growing, that people are learning about it. Commands are getting on board with it. They're realizing the benefits of it for their service members, and they're finding ways to let their service members take part.
Well, I mean, let's go back in time. I mentioned this before, and we've touched on this a little bit. Back in time, people would flounder and try to find their way out of the military. And, I've always said this, the military does a really good job of teaching you how to be in the military, but historically it doesn't teach you how to get out of the military. And so that can be attributed to failure rates in society, joblessness and unemployment rates among veterans. You name it. And this is a perfect opportunity, again, to use your words, Dave, to test drive a company, and for a company to test drive a candidate. And particularly during COVID, for those of us who sit in the corporate space, we see that organizations, that companies are holding back spending. They're kind of waiting to see what happens with the election. They're waiting to see what happens with coronavirus. There are just a lot of variables that are happening right now. And, I know at least in my world and in some of the other worlds that I, work in among, to come to you and say, hey, listen, you're projecting growth next year. You're projecting that you're going to need hires, but at the moment you don't have a budget for it. Here's a great way to plug into some of the most talented, educated, experienced talent on earth. It's a no-brainer. And it's one of those things where, when I talk to leaders about this, I think the initial reaction is like, I don't understand. What's the catch? There's no catch. There are no strings attached. It's truly a test drive. You're not bound when you go to the Toyota dealership and hop into a Tacoma and drive it around with a guy. You're not bound to buying it. You're not bound to anything. And again, I say that we're not we're not saying that the idea is just bring somebody in and use them for 6 months, because the whole idea is to give them a skill set that they can use on the outside. But I'll tell you what, even if there's not a full-time role on the back end, it's still infinitely valuable, because we didn't have this kind of experience when we got out.
Right. And the Skillbridge program is a great way for service members who want to make a leap, a career change, so if you like what you do in the military, but you don't really see doing that for the next 20 years, that's a great time to go learn another skill, right? So the company's not paying anything. You're not paying anything. You're gaining valuable insight. You may have to start maybe towards the bottom, but so what, right? You're getting out doing, a field or an industry that you're more interested in. And it's a great way to make a career change. I guess, it can be easier for military members to do that, as opposed to, anyone who's not in the military. It may be more difficult to do that, because who's going to take a chance on you, right? They've got to pay you from day one.
Right. Right.
Now, is this a program where you're stationed in Camp Pendleton, you're stationed down there in La Jolla, you register for the DoD Skillbridge program, you get authorized to do it? Is this something where you have to kind of try to stay local and maintain your housing on base? Or if I'm in San Diego and I decide, hey, I got this opportunity up there in San Francisco or Seattle or Denver, I have the ability to essentially leave for those 6 months and
You do, yeah. So
awesome.
it was a lot more difficult during COVID, right? We had our own COVID rules, for Skillbridge. A lot of internships, apprenticeships got canceled. They recalled their service members back, for health safety reasons. And a lot of companies weren't prepared to go online or remote. But yes, so you are able to do an internship or an apprenticeship away from your permanent duty station. The DoD is allowing people to utilize unused barracks rooms on bases that are closer to where their internship or Skillbridge opportunity is going to be. Now, that doesn't mean that you could just show up on the doorstep and be like, hey, I need a room, right? That's still something that military members need to work out beforehand.
That's frowned upon.
Yeah. They don't just want you to come with your bags, ready to go. But yeah, they're not going to kick anybody out of a barracks room for you to have one. To do your Skillbridge opportunity, but the availability is there for a service member to work out and hopefully be able to stay there closer to where they're going to be interning.
I talk to a lot of candidates, and in our roles, we're trying to plug them into the markets or the cities where they want to end up. So one of my initial questions is, where do you want to go? What happens after San Diego or after Hawaii or after Camp Lejeune? I understand why so many people want to get out of San Diego, because the weather's horrible. But taking a guy from San Diego to New York, actually, and that was one of the questions that we asked him, like, why would you ever want to go from San Diego to New York during the wintertime?
Yeah.
But I've run into a few people who said that they still had, and we talked about maybe some of the hangups or challenges here. Now, I will preface this with saying I've run into this very little. And it's typically not a challenge as much as it is, just as Dave mentioned, just maybe just a little bit of the command saying, hey, you're bound to us for a little bit more time. And I've had some people say that they can't go any further than 150 miles or something like that from their duty station. And actually, I think I've only run into this twice of all the conversations I've had, but it was because they had a role on a ship that basically they could not replace until they transitioned out, and then manpower wouldn't give them another man, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so that's the only slowdown or hiccup that I've run into, in which case, for an organization like where I work, we've got operations all over the place. We've got operations in virtually every major or medium size or even small market. So we can plug them in wherever in a lot of cases. But I have seen this a few times where, the command, it's really up to the command. And I think that's probably the only limiting factor is command by command. It's what they'll approve. And so far, I've not run into anybody saying, no, I can't do it. So it seems, again, too good to be true in some cases.
Yeah. So the DoD has, an overarching instruction that they've created for the program, but they do allow each branch to have their own bit of autonomy to run their own, their own internal program. The Army is doing a phenomenal job with replacing soldiers who have been approved by that commanding officer to do a Skillbridge opportunity. Big Army will send a replacement soldier, so that way that unit isn't gapped, whatever that MOS is. So, kudos to the Army, and I hope to see the other branches jump on board and do something similar. because that is usually one of the biggest reasons for a service member to be denied. Mission first. We're paying you to be a soldier, sailor, Marine, whatever the case may be, and that's what we need you to be until your time is up. Yeah, I mean, if the Army can figure it out, hopefully they can spread the word, and the other branches can do something similar to help close the reasoning for service members to be denied this opportunity.
That's awesome. So how would a company get involved in the Skillbridge program?
That's excellent. So the application, the vetting process is done by the folks in DC, and the initial application for any company to get started is embedded right there on the DoD Skillbridge website. Right there, if you click on Industry Partners, the title up top, it'll bring up the form. Start filling it out. You can decide what type of military people are you interested in. Officers, enlisted, junior, senior. What branch are you only going to market towards? Navy or Marines, or are you just seeking certain types of skill set that military learned while in the service, or are you willing to retrain? So this really covers everybody in the service. So the company would just go fill out the form. They're going to be asked some more questions by the program office. Some digging around, behind the scenes. The program office will do that, checking up, up on the company, and then hopefully they get approved, and then they're able to offer Skillbridge internships.
This is what I did. I went into the site. I did all the paperwork. I did the MOUs. I went through the process. It took probably because I was slow and my calendar is always packed. It took me a couple of weeks to get through all the requests and things like that. But what we did, we identified a handful of different pieces of our industry, a few different jobs that we're always hiring for. And these are great paying jobs. These are opportunities that lead to a greater career path. And all of them, well, in most cases, they require on-the-job training. So it's not something where we're sending you through a class and you're going to be sitting in the classroom necessarily. It's going to be, there could be some certifications on the back end of it, some licensing, some certifying. But largely it's on-the-job training. It's learning an industry, and being able for us to duplicate that in multiple places. And so that's what we did. And what I found is we post these roles up. I have different candidates knocking on the door saying, I'd like to end up in Dallas. I'd like to end up in New York. I'd like to end up in wherever. And inside of, again, I work in a very big company with a lot of people, a lot of different moving parts. And so I have those relationships on deck, the people who have already said, yes, I want to participate. The next time we talk to an exceptional candidate, put that person in front of me. Let's have an interview. And all I found is that beyond that, once we interview that candidate and we work out all the nuts and bolts, we make them an offer, an internship offer, and we put the dates on that internship offer, and we fill out, for the Navy at least so far. I haven't had to do this anywhere else. The Navy requires an additional MOU, or at least a command did. So I just had to fill out another memorandum of understanding that said, here are the details of the program. And we handed it off, and that person took it up their chain of command, and that was it. Dates of the internship, start date, end date. Basically the agreement that we're not going to, ask anything crazy of them. It's going to be a 40-hour work week. The same old labor laws. It's the same stuff that you do for any employment. It looks like a regular offer letter, except on there it says that they're being paid by the DoD. So it was simple.
The Department of Defense doesn't want you to work them like maybe the Department of Defense works them.
Right. They don't want the 80-hour work weeks in the ocean freezing in the middle of the night.
We're going to give them a tent. They can sleep outside the office building. They'll get a shower every third day. We have these bagged meals they can eat on a daily basis.
We're going to do mystery immunizations every other week.
Yeah.
What's this shot? Just don't worry about it. It'll keep you healthy.
Yeah. That's good that the DoD's, they're truly prepping you for the transition into hopefully, better working environments. Okay. So we talked about how the companies can get involved, and Matt, that's awesome that you stepped up and did that. I'm actually on that Skillbridge website, and I'm looking around, and I do see your company in quite a few different places here. But how about a member of the military that's getting ready to transition? How would they go about starting this process? You said you found it somewhere and started reading up on it. How did you find it, and how should somebody else, happen along and find this?
I wish I remembered. I don't remember where I heard of it. I learned about it in like March of 2019, and I don't recall where. But when I went through TGPS, which is our transition class, I asked the transition counselor about it, and she didn't know anything about it. So the program was around for 5 years, and still, people that should know about it didn't know about it. So you can see how relatively new it still was. A service member, what they should do is as soon as they're thinking about transitioning out of the service, they should make a LinkedIn profile and start networking, right? Start networking with the companies that they think they may want to intern with. Start figuring out what it is they want to do, where they want to live, so that way they can really start their focused search, right? It's finding a Skillbridge internship is no different than finding a regular job, right? You've got to start somewhere, right? So what do you want to do, and where do you want to do it? There are more people that are getting hired these days because of who they know instead of what they know. So taking the time to develop relationships and having people know you and like you and want to do things for you is really important in this day and age. Probably 3 or 4 months before you're eligible to start your Skillbridge opportunity, you should file with your command. Let them know that you're interested. Let them know if you're going to stay in the city where you're currently located, permanent duty station, or if you're planning on going somewhere else. But yeah, the networking process should really start, probably about 2 years out is a good sweet spot for you to really cast a wide net, find all of these companies that hire people to do what it is you want to do. And then you look into them and you see what it is, what are their business practices, how do they treat their people? What do they hold, near and dear to their heart, and do their ethics and morals and values, mirror yours. So there's another statistic that's out there that says 70% of transitioning military leave their first job within the first year of getting out. 70%. So that tells me that military members are not doing the homework that they should be doing to look into the company and understanding who that company is or what the job that they're going to be doing, right, to ensure that they're going to be happy long term.
You bring up a great point there, and this is something that is more of a long-term conversation that's been happening for quite some time, and that is that people show up to career fairs in the military. They show up to a career fair and they walk past I mentioned before that when I got out and I went to a job fair, the only jobs available were selling insurance and a handful of other things. But people will avoid these conversations with these different organizations because they're like, well, I don't want to go talk to the police department. I don't want to be a cop. Well, the police department also has HR and IT. It can make you introductions to City Works or something on a more metropolitan level. The insurance company also has HR, IT, operations, et cetera, logistics, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that, and this was, my experience, and I would say that, again, when I got out, there were not the tools like LinkedIn, which, Dave, I want to talk to you about your LinkedIn page too, in the group, the Skillbridge group. There were not the different resources. So when we got out, and I'd say that this is true for a lot of people who maybe are not savvy to searching for their next opportunity post-military because they're not in that space. They're not networking with people who work for the insurance company or the soap manufacturer or the grocery store down the street or whatever. They're not networking with those people. So the network is, I always say this, the number one thing when you're transitioning out of the military is network. Get in there and talk to people, have every conversation you have. Even if you don't want to go work at McDonald's, interview at McDonald's. And I say that from a restaurant level to a corporate level. Take any interview you can get and have conversations, because you might explore something and find something that fits exactly what you want to do that you were completely unaware of. Again, McDonald's is not only hiring people to run the French fry machine. You know what I mean? McDonald's is a whole global corporation, like so many other global corporations. So let's talk about the Skillbridge page on LinkedIn, the Skillbridge. Tell us the name of it again for anybody listening, and what goes on that page.
Yeah, so it's called the DoD Skillbridge Community of Practice. It was started in June of 2019 by Mr. Eddie Dunn. He works for United Health Group, and he just got real busy with his work, but realized that the group was really going to grow and needed more attention than maybe what he was going to be able to provide. So we asked for a volunteer to take it over, and I took over admin responsibilities. So what we do, we find current Skillbridge opportunities and we share them to the group. We want to promote the Skillbridge program to all the transitioning service members that want to learn about it. We help service members learn how to network with a purpose, right? How to find those companies and how to talk to those recruiters and other industry professionals with the intent of landing the Skillbridge opportunity that they want. And then lastly, one of the things that we do, and really what I feel like our bread and butter is connecting the service member with the recruiters of the companies that they're interested in interning with or doing their Skillbridge opportunity, right? It's very difficult for somebody who doesn't know who they need to be speaking to, number one, and number two, how to get that person to listen to you, right? So one of the things that we do is make those warm introductions with recruiters such as yourself, Matt, with people that want to intern or do their Skillbridge opportunity with that company. We just let the rest take its course. The recruiter and the service member get to talk and, kind of work out the situation on their own. But we are placing a lot of service members in a lot of Skillbridge opportunities across the country.
It's fantastic. Like I said, I've just recently really started to dig in on the Skillbridge. This is something that just I would have never imagined being possible for transitioning military members. At my current place of employment, I have a young man who in February is leaving to join the U.S. Navy. And I've already let him know, like, hey, man, when you get in, you get to your first duty station, I said, soak it up. I said, enjoy the travel, enjoy meeting people from all walks of life, all areas of the world. I said, take every opportunity you can. I said, but at some point it will end. I said, so whenever that is for you. And I told him about the Skillbridge program, and he really seemed very interested in that. I'll direct him to take this in. I'll direct him to hopefully jump in that group on LinkedIn, because it sounds like even if he's just now getting started with his military career, if he keeps up with being involved with that group and keeping eyes on it, he's going to see the success of these transitioning veterans, how they get introduced to these recruiters. And, that's exactly what we started this podcast for. If we could help one individual, and I think, this for me, I have hands-on with this individual, and I know that this is something that could definitely help him in the future. So that's absolutely awesome what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah. We have a great time. Recruiters are very active in the group. They're sharing their opportunities. Service members are asking questions and answering questions. We have a lot of people in the group. Shout out to Candy Tillman and 50 Strong. They run an amazing webinar series every Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And actually today is their first networking series or networking event specifically for service members who want Skillbridge opportunities to connect with recruiters. So she and I actually had the same thought independently. She's further into the whole Zoom and webinars and meeting and that whole space. So I'm fully supporting her. She's doing an amazing job. And we're just looking to connect every service member with the best opportunity or the opportunity that they want.
Awesome. And I've talked about this on the podcast previously, probably on a number of different occasions, but I like to talk about the military transition being something of when you're inside of a room or you're stuck inside of a cage with all your friends and everything about life. Dave, you may have been in a similar situation. I know I joined the military when I was a teenager. I was 18 years old. I joined the Marine Corps. It probably applies to many of us, if not most of us. It's the first job we have, whether it's out of high school or out of college. And it's the first experience that we sort of grow up into, out of teenagers into adulthood. And everything we know, whether we spend 4 years or 25 years in there, everything we know is inside of that room, is inside of that cage. Everything is hanging on the wall. All of our friends are there. We wear the same uniforms. We are of the same culture. All of our benefits are laid out for us. And there's a lot of different things that we have. In some cases, we take for granted. But it's, the military is, it can be stressful at times. There are deployments. You miss life pieces. You miss childbirths, and you miss high school graduations. You miss your kids graduating from 6th grade, things like that. But then one day you got to get out. Yep. And one day the door opens up and somebody asks you to step out, and you make this decision consciously. Something we fail to talk about in the military transition and the TAP program is probably the emotional toll of leaving the armed forces and what that feels like when you walk outside of that door and everything is left behind you inside of that room. Mm-hmm. And that is where I find some exceptional networking capability here, not only in that LinkedIn group, but also in the companies that are doing some of this work, the other companies that are participating in this, and the organizations that are trying to get into it. It is offering maybe a little bit of a buffer spring, so to speak, to use Marine Corps logic for how to take the recoil out of your rifle. It's offering a little bit of an airbag to slow that transition process down a little bit and allow you to ease into it. And again, we'll use the same term again, the test drive, to test drive your way into it. And you're not completely out of the military, but you're kind of stepping into two different places. You're wearing a suit to work. You've taken off the uniform, but you're still technically in the military. It's such an interesting conversation that we're here now, that this has evolved to this point so positively, and that there's so much support around it, and so many people that are doing so many good things. And they're doing selfless things. They're doing these things to try to make that connection a little bit easier. And just so it turns out, for those of us who do this professionally, we get paid for it. We enjoy doing it. So it doesn't feel like a job. It's fun. So I thought I'd mention that is what I see this program as, and that's what I see this network as. It becomes its own small network of people that are now engaged in it. When anybody asks me to talk about Skillbridge, I immediately drop what I'm doing, and I'm like, yes, let's go have a conversation, because it's kind of a no-brainer for business, and it's a no-brainer for the candidate to get involved in it.
Yeah, it is. And I love the way that you put it. Yeah, there's really no downside to it. Any company, any industry can take part in the Skillbridge program. Opportunities are endless.
Right.
Just think about this a little bit. Obviously somebody enters the Skillbridge program, they get the internship or the apprenticeship for those 6 months. They try it out. Potentially it's not the correct fit for you. That's fine. Or maybe that individual is not the correct fit for that company. For the company side of things, I think that it's pretty easy. They can hopefully find the next guy in line that wants to try their company out, give them the test drive. For that individual, guess what? It didn't work out. You didn't get that offer, or you know what? You tried it out. It just wasn't for you. That's fine. You are now going to enter the civilian working force, not only with your military background, like everyone else in the military has. You now also have real world work experience. Beyond that as well, you have that one extra step on your resume, that one extra skill set to lean on. So maybe that company wasn't for you, but like Matt said, if you have conversations, if you have this network, and you've taken these interviews, you may have said, hey, I'd never even thought about this, but man, that really kind of tickled my fancy. And maybe this company wasn't the right fit, but I know companies A, B, and C also do very similar things. Let me go talk to them. Let me find their recruiters and say, hey, look, I did my time in the military. I also use a Skillbridge program to try these things out with this company here. It didn't seem to work out, or the location wasn't right, and whatever it was. Hey, I'd like to give you guys a shot. And guess what? You're that candidate now that not only has the military experience that so many companies are looking for, you also have that real world experience in that field, in that industry. And that recruiter is going to say, hey, this is a slam dunk candidate. Let's get this guy in the door. So I think that's just another thing, even if things don't go the way you plan. And it's fine. Life doesn't give you everything you want. So if things don't go the way you plan through the Skillbridge program, even when it, air quotes here, fails, it's still going to succeed. It's still giving you that experience.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I suggest to military members, even when they're on their Skillbridge opportunity, to continue to network, because there is no guarantee in this, right? A company doesn't have to hire the service member, or the service member doesn't have to accept the job offer from the company. So continuing to network, you're always networking for what you're going to need next, right? It's easier to have people in your corner who know you and like you and are willing to help you when you need it, than having to scramble to learn, about somebody or find somebody that you don't know and ask a complete stranger to help you, right? That's the odds of that happening are just, slim to none these days, unfortunately. So
you said something there that reminds me of sort of fatherly advice that I give to people whether they're transitioning out of the military or just making a career change or doing anything. And that is, it's what comes next. It's not this job that you want. It's not the job that you're interviewing at this very moment that you want. It's what happens in 5 or 10 years. particularly when you're stepping out of the military. And let's assume that you're jumping into something new. Let's say you're going into an industry that is not what you did in the military. It's not what you have experience doing. In some cases, you're going to have to take a step back. You're going to have to learn a new industry, and a company is not going to pay you the CEO salary to step in and learn from scratch. And so I've had a handful of candidates that I've hired over time, and a few that we've had in some different fellowships and internships like this, where they had a high rank in the military, and they had to kind of take a step backwards in terms of experience and leadership level. They're no longer leading a battalion. Now they are perhaps, in an ops management setting where they have a handful of direct reports. And maybe even the pay comes down a little bit from where they would like to be or where they were in the military. But the idea is that we're teaching you a new industry, and now you are a high performance, high potential person. That's why we want you from the military. We want military people because they are high performance, high potential people who typically work and operate and train and do real world scenarios in zero fail environments. I mean, what happens when we fail in the military? People get hurt or killed, or equipment is just millions of dollars of equipment's destroyed. So you can't screw up in the armed forces. You can't, or the culture is one that's not to screw up. So when we hire these people, we're looking at, hey, it might take you a year or two to ramp or in that runway, but ultimately what we're looking for is for you to be a high potential performer in the organization. So, again, it's fatherly advice to the person who might be looking at this and going, all right, well, what do I do next? You might have an opportunity that looks like, okay, it looks like a good decent opportunity. That's not the one I want. Good. It's not the one you want. That you're right. That's not the one you want. It's what comes after this. It's the career path ahead of you that you got to plug in. We mentioned culture, company culture, and the values of an organization and things like that. Those are all things you should take into account and stick around, because you still got, if you retire from the military, you still got at least 20 more years to be working, So test drives.
Yeah. I keep thinking back to that individual Matt brought up before, who he asked the question, where do you want to end up? And he said New York. And Dave, you'll attest to this. You come up off that subway platform on a street level in February, and all of a sudden that individual who's spent all that time in San Diego, that wind hits him in the face. It's just whipping down those tunnels of buildings. It just turns into a wind tunnel essentially. And they're like, man, I might have messed up. So, hey,
Whoops.
You know what though? He has this relationship with Matt and other recruiters. He says, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not built for this New York winter.
I made a horrible mistake.
Yes.
Do you have anything in Punta Cana?
Yeah. And it's really, Dave brought this up. It's still what you still have to have some level of skill and understanding, but those relationships are the foundation that is getting so many people hired. So the the relationships. Hey, you can go back to, hey, listen, yeah, New York's just not doing it for me. I need Phoenix, Dallas, Houston. We got something down south, maybe Atlanta. And
we're going to recover from COVID. This is the thing. The COVID crisis has left a lot of people out here looking for opportunities and trying to figure out what's next. And if for those of us who have been in business or in the corporate space for, prior to COVID, which was in just a short 8 months ago, we used to be in a job seeker's market where the job seeker demanded or commanded the rate at which they got hired. And so companies were dying to find the right people. And now it has flipped, but it will recover. And that's where those relationships and that networking is going to come in. Very handy. It's not again, not what you're plugging into right now. It's who you know and who you get to know in the next course of a few months. When things go back to some normalcy, if that's what we're going to call it, all the financial experts say that basically nothing can hold the American economy down, which means that we're going to revive. We're going to come back to life. Companies are going to be hiring. Budgets will come back to life. Companies are already hiring, believe it or not. I mean, you might not see it, but it's happening on a large scale. Companies are still looking for people. I know we are. So get to know that network right now. If you've got a year left in the military, 2 years left in the military, get on LinkedIn. It blows my mind when I see somebody who's like, I'm transitioning out of the military, and they have 3 connections on LinkedIn. I'm like, I'd be out there connecting to everybody, engaging in every conversation that I can. And things are going to be a little bit different for the time being. There's not going to be physical job fairs, but there's going to be these events, these different webinars. Dave, you mentioned one just a minute ago. Different webinars people can participate in and just get information and see who's who and connect with the who's who, because those are the people that will help you get to the next step.
Absolutely. And before you need to have your resume, polished and sent out, before you're ready to send it out, write some resumes and have some people take a look at it. Before you're ready to sit down and have an interview for an actual job, have some practice interviews. You had mentioned, Matt, earlier about, McDonald's, right? Go have a interview with McDonald's with no expectation of getting hired, right? Just practice, get in that form, get in that mindset of dressing for the part, practicing the questions, right, and the answers, and the STAR method and all of that stuff, right? All of that stuff are things that transitioning service members should be thinking about well before they, it's on their lap and they need to execute it. All that stuff needs to happen way beforehand.
Interview practice, you mentioned that. That's one of those huge things. I can't tell you how awkward it is when you jump on the phone with somebody and have a very brief, non-descriptive conversation. I just want to know what you want next, and the conversation feels strange. There's no better way to burn an opportunity than to just not have the preparation to understand what you want, or at least a basic understanding of what you want next. So that's, you hit the nail on the head, Dave. It's get out there and interview with everybody. Even if you don't want that job, go talk to people. The art of communication, there is nothing more valuable than the art of communication. A lot of people land their opportunities simply because they make an impact. They have a first impression, or they make a first impression, a positive first impression on somebody who can plug them into an opportunity. And really, as employers, as hiring managers, as recruiters, what we're looking for is high potential people. I'm just looking for the potential in the person, maybe some of the skill set, but in the way of Skillbridge, I don't even need the skills. We're going to train those. I just need the raw skill. I need the raw applicability of, can you do the job? Can you talk to people? Can you learn? Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that I'm seeing a big shift on LinkedIn for, is companies no longer needing, they're no longer posting, I want this entry level, position filled by somebody that's got 5 years, 10 years of experience, right? That's not an entry level person, right? So, they're finally starting to realize that people don't need all of this background and experience for that job, right? It's do you have the aptitude to learn it, right? Are you trainable? Do you fit our company culture? Are you going to get along with our people? And do I believe in my company's training plan in order to get you up to speed and get you productive to where I need you to be?
Right. Dave, I think you absolutely nailed it. You can bring in an entry-level individual that shows the aptitude to learn and grow. And if you've done the correct hiring in the past, those people will have the ability to train this entry-level individual that has this aptitude and get them up to speed quicker than you can imagine. I put something out on LinkedIn the other day. I had a couple days off around my birthday. I just sent a message, just check in. And when you hear of your team's success with your absence, it's not a failure like, hey, I'm not important. It's a, hey, I've put time and effort into getting other individuals up to speed and up to snuff. So when I'm not around, everything is handled, everything runs smooth, and I don't have to necessarily worry. I'm still going to check in. I'm still going to say, hey, how's everything going? How's this? How's that? But it's great when you hear the good news. Hey, everything's awesome. It went beautifully today. And it's a benefit more. It's a plus more for that individual that you've done the right thing and you've trained those right people and you've hired the right individuals to do those jobs. I'm on the DoD Skillbridge website, like I said earlier, just looking through some of the companies that are involved. I'm seeing 474 entries here when you look through the companies. That is a ton of opportunities, a ton of internship opportunities all over the nation. This is absolutely fantastic. You did mention that some of them are aimed at specific branches of the military. So, if you're Air Force and you absolutely think, oh man, I love this, that one might not be available for you. But guess what? I bet there's something in that same industry that's going to be available for you.
Well,
your branch though.
I'll do one more pitch here before we wrap this thing up. And when we talk about the raw skills of bringing the right person in the door and somebody with potential, let's talk about a couple of stats. I don't have the actual numbers here right in front of me, but when we talk about the education levels of military, the military has a higher instance of high school diplomas. I think the average is about the same in the same age group, working age, population of, let's call it 21 to 65. In the military also has the same rate of college degrees, and it has an accelerated or higher rate in the same age group of advanced degrees. So these people are educated. There is some anecdotal evidence that you spend more classroom time in a 4-year enlistment, more classroom time in the military in learning environments than you do in a college learning environment. So we're talking about an accelerated learning curve. You're talking about people who, if you want somebody with high potential with the raw skills, a moldable ball of clay, they have an accelerated learning curve. They understand how to take instructions, and at a certain rank, they understand how to give instructions. And in many cases, I've always said this, we do military leadership backwards. Backwards from corporate America. If you look at somebody who's been, let's say you went to college after high school, you went to college, got a job in corporate America, it might take you 10 years, 15 years before you're leading teams of people. In the military, you're leading teams of people. I was leading fire teams or squads 2 years into the military. I probably couldn't drink legally. I couldn't buy a beer legally. And I was responsible for probably up to 12 or 13 Marines. And the way that they lived in the barracks, the way that they interacted with their families if they lived on base housing. One of them got arrested one time. I had to go deal with that. I couldn't even go to the bar.
Up to how they dress.
Right, up to how they dress.
They shave.
Right.
Yeah.
How they're, all of their hygiene, all this stuff, you're responsible for them. And so up to training. I mean, it's training and proficiency. I have trained hundreds of Marines in urban warfare, for example, and I was probably 21 years old at the time. Hundreds of people I developed a curriculum for. So we're looking for high potential people who are polished, and not everybody that leaves the military is going to be a rock star in your respective industry, but there's so much raw potential there. You just have to be able to harness it and go out and find them and say, I'm willing to teach you the other 25% of what you don't have. And if a company is unwilling to do that, you're going to miss out on some of the most amazing, sought after, competitive talent in the entire world. So it behooves everybody to participate in Skillbridge, or at least look for military or consider military. The resumes, I always say this, I get a resume of a 24-year Navy veteran, and it's a 1-page resume. There are 40 pages missing of experience, right? Yeah. So we don't want a 40-page resume, but a 1-page resume for a civilian recruiter, they might look at this and be like, well, this person doesn't have the experience. That's because you're missing 40 pages of experience that they didn't want to put on there. So I'm going to stop talking. Dave, I appreciate you joining us today. I appreciate the conversation, and of course, everything that you and everybody else who is participating in Skillbridge and championing Skillbridge on LinkedIn. I see your stuff every single day. I appreciate you tagging me and stuff. It gives my network a little bit more of a boost so I can see who's doing what. And frankly, I've got people knocking on my door through LinkedIn asking about Skillbridge and asking about opportunities within our company. So I'm super excited about where this goes. And inside of my program, I'm trying to build it out. We've got a lot of progress ahead of us. And I've got a lot of excited leadership who's saying, how do we make this thing bigger and better? And that's what we're trying to solve for right now. So appreciate all the work you're doing here and appreciate your service. I don't know if you guys have any closing statements.
I just wanted to highlight one more time, Dave, the DoD Skillbridge Community of Practice. That is the group on LinkedIn. If you are a transitioning veteran, if you are someone, a recruiter in a company, or someone interested, if you were a decision maker in a company and interested in the Skillbridge program, I think that would be a fantastic place to start. Have conversations with individuals that are currently in the program, or transitioning military members looking to get in the program themselves.
Absolutely.
It's a great place to start those relationships. And Dave, like Matt said, thank you very much for your 20 years of service in the military. Thank you for what you're doing now with the Skillbridge program. You absolutely are a champion over there, and good luck over there with General Dynamics. And it was great talking to you, man.
Great talking to you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciated being able to talk about this wonderful program.
All right. So with that being said, until next time, we'll see you right back here on Veterans Beyond the Wire.